Video archive 62 live person long. All right, this might be the ugliest trade I've ever showed you guys. Um, Ironically, it's my second biggest gainer or third biggest. Depends on how you count it, but it's my top three biggest gains for sure. But you can see how absolutely ugly it is. It's a 1.4 to 1 risk reward. It'll be a slightly different type of trade. It's not one that I really took any specific signals on. It's something I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to articulate clearly here, but you can see on here, my average was 90 cents. That's not where I bought all my shares. I was buying it like 108, 104, 1. I got some at like 80 cents, 75, 69. I was buying all over the place. It just averaged out to about 90 cents a share as an entry. My exit was about 145. Again, I was selling it 120, 130, 140, 150. So it came out to about 145-ish. It was about a 60% gain. So I don't really have much to say about the entry. I didn't really take a signal. This was kind of more this was a dangerous trade. I had an oversized position. I didn't really, I was managing my risk deep, right down here below this low, below 52 cents. So I would, at that point, I know it's breaking the structure, at least how I'm viewing it at that point. Um, Well, let me rephrase that because this structure didn't exist at this point. I was just using this previous low because I knew if it gets down back below this previous low, I don't want to find out if this low is going to hold. I mean, as you can tell, based on how I'm trying to explain this, I didn't really have a good plan for my downside risk. It was really based on conviction and faith in a sense, which is extremely dangerous, and you should never do that. You will blow up your account. I got lucky and did not blow up my account, or maybe not. Maybe luck's the wrong word, but it worked out. I don't take credit for that. I give that credit to Rocky and Trade Spotting because uh, and it wasn't them specifically that made it happen. It was hard to say why it happened, but anyway, the point is there's not really a good entry signal in here. You can see I have some structures laid out now, and I've made some previous videos where I was trading inside of this range. Um, in here trading this, and then I traded this retest up here. Uh, don't think I traded this retest. But the reason I exited was first of all, I had a huge impulse move up. It was like up 70% pre-market. And then second, I was looking at something like this, right? Right. So it expressed that full liquidity. Can't put on extended hours, but in extended hours, it actually went a bit higher, went to 160. But as you can see, it almost perfectly expressed the liquidity inside of this during open market hours. So I took a lot of profit there. Also, we came up and bumped up against this macro diagonal. People have it drawn on differently. I kind of like it like this. It almost acts as a neckline for a possible head and shoulders in there. And you can see it kind of acted as support here. Or here it was support, and then it lost it, and it was resistance, and then it was support, and then it was resistance, and now it's just been resistance. So it's a significant line. I'll just explore this with you guys right now. Yeah, also you can see that diagonal is perfectly where it wicked up to. So there's heavy divergence there. And I don't mind taking that profit and re-entering once, if we break through that and then get a retest. I'd be looking for a re-entry like that, which we see multiple examples of that. Um, I'm going to work on getting out of my vocabulary, but just bear with me for now. That's me kind of working. When I say it's because I'm fiddling with the tech. But you can see that retest right here led to remove, and then also right here we had another retest, which then led to a big move. So I'd be waiting for this white line to break and then get retest and enter on that confirmation for a retest, which if it had broken there would have been beautiful because on a retest, it, roughly would have retested this high of that candle and like this clear area of oh yeah, that's the macro 236 at about 148, 150 around that area. If I were to draw a macro fib on from this breakdown, you'd find that 236 lays right there. So I didn't actually mark that as a reason I exited, but it definitely was something I was aware of and thinking of, right? Because 146, how I drew it on there, so it failed with that macro 236 again. So if we break through that, I wouldn't be surprised, even if it goes straight up to 305 and then come down. I wouldn't be surprised to see a retest of that 236 once we break through. It's easier to re-enter than it is to get out of a trade if it stops going your way. So I wanted to solidify that profit. Have a good year this year in the markets. Uh, yeah, I mean, I literally have nothing written down for this one. Usually I write a couple of reasons out for why I took the trade, the entry signals and the exit signals, but I'm gonna just wing it a little bit. So it was mainly that 236, that diagonal, the route, the as you can see, the horizontal line here, which was essentially that 236. You do have possible divergence across these highs. We'll zoom in a little bit and just glance around for a exit because the entry can't really be rationalized very well. Excuse me. There might be one more structural thing I can point out. I believe, let's see, I was looking at something like this, which broke out to the downside, retested the previous structure there, and then gapped up to the top side. So I was like, that's one of the more brutal fake outs I've ever seen. Because it breaks to the downside. In my head, I'm thinking, all right, we expect some sort of, expression of liquidity of the structure it broke, which would take us back down to, about 71, which would fill a small gap on the 1 hour we have here and be another retest of this bottom diagonal, which it's hard to see, but this is a part of this broadening structure here. So it'd be another touch, for a touch on that. Also potentially another touch on this bottom red diagonal, which isn't drawn on very well, but from that low, this low, all those lows. So I saw a good reason for it to go there, but it got held up and blasted. Now my risk management was going to just be to accumulate more down there, lower my average, and just maybe manage some of it at that point if it breaks that line here, because now I have these lows and this diagonal red line at this point existed. So it didn't exist when I started accumulating here, so I didn't have the plan for the stop loss except for below this low. But as this developed, I was able to move my stop loss, up. And then as I started putting in higher lows, I started wondering if maybe, start moving it up with the lows. But yeah, so what I was pointing out with this structure is then, did we get that expression to the top side? Yeah, that and a little bit more even. So I did take some off at about that 132 level. Because if you look, I'll drop a horizontal at 130. You can see it's the bottom of this range, which has been, this section of price has been significant, right? Top of this range, where all these body closes happened, where this kind of started going crazy and then failed. You can see it's the bottom of where this big gap down candle went. So significant level, somewhat arbitrary in me deciding to get out there. It ended up working out. I'll play the price out for you and show you what happened. So now we're down here at 89 cents. So I'm happy with that. Now, just so this is in the video, I'll point out this is interesting to me. This negative candle on the daily retest of the golden cross fail, and now we're sinking lower. Even though these are both green candles, just it seems like we're coming to test the liquidity of this wick. Maybe we'll come back down and test this structure again. The bottom side of the structure, this red line, fill that 1 hour gap right here. Got that fair value gap from this impulse move, right, which fills at about 79 cents. I'll just give you guys a really sorry, Rocky, but just that. Won't say much about it, but that. I'm looking at that. Whoa, this looks wild on the 2 day. This weird, like. Anyway, that's that trade. Boom, baby. We're rolling. We're rolling. We ain't stopping.